Conversations, a speaker series highlighting and promoting unconventionally excellent global leaders who are taking bold and unconventional steps to stand out in their lives and companies. I'm Dr. Allison Schmidt, and today I'm excited to welcome Tara Turkington to have an unscripted, unconversation with me. Thank you so much, Tara.
Great. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Tara Turkington is the CEO of Flow Communications and Flow Travel. Flow Communications is one of South Africa's best known marketing and best known communication companies. And Flow Travel organizes fascinating trips for people around the world. Tara has won many accolades, including being an awardee of the International Women's Entrepreneurial Challenge in 2017, along with her sister, Tiffany Turkington Palmer, who is her business partner. They were the first sisters ever to win this award. She's also an alumni of the Global EY Winning Women program and the Stanford Seed Transformation program. Flow Communications has won over approximately 200 industry awards. Oh my goodness. Including Best Agency in South Africa and throughout Africa in different award sets. Tara has a master's in journalism and is a past journalist, high school teacher, and a university lecturer. She lives in Johannesburg, married to a school headmaster, and they have 4 children. You have quite the resume.
Well, I want to meet me after that.
I will make a formal introduction because you are awesome. 200 awards. Like,
Wow.
that is
That's the
very
whole
impressive,
company.
and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I work with wonderful people, wonderful, clever people.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for your time, and especially being located in South Africa, as I am located in Dallas, Texas. So this is very cool that you've agreed to do this podcast with me. So thank you so, so much again.
Such a pleasure.
And I was so excited to do this podcast with you. And as I ask all my guests, I asked for you to think of 3 words that begin with "un." And you really took this to heart because just before we were ready to get started, you said, "I don't like one of my words. I don't think it's cool enough." And I said, "Great." And it is actually a perfect word. And I know this just because I've had the great pleasure of talking to you a few times prior to this podcast. So I'm going to have you start in any order you would like. And I'm interested in your approach to this first, because I don't know if people have asked you to do this before, and how you came up with these words and how they relate to you personally, how they relate to you business, or even a combination, however that works for you.
So do you want them all 3 at once or you want them one by one?
Let's do one by one just so our listeners can even get a more enriched background about you, get to know you better.
Okay, so I'm going to be unconventional and start with the third one, which doesn't actually start with "un," but it ends with "un." So, and the word is fun, F-U-N. And yeah, I want to tell you why I chose this word. So,
Please.
Alison, life is short, and you've got to enjoy what you do. You've got to laugh. You've got to connect with people. You've got to enjoy your life, your work. It's got to be. You've got to make it fun. Otherwise, it's just terrible. So, in our companies, we take having fun really seriously. And fun doesn't just happen. It's not something that just automatically comes out of the sky. You have to plan fun. And the more serious and big your business gets, the more fun you've got to plan. Because it's easy to get boring and corporate and hierarchical and not the place that people actually want to work. I always say, like, we at Flow, we take our work seriously, but not ourselves. Like, you shouldn't take yourself too seriously. We've got a lot to learn. We're not perfect. Never can be close to that. You've got, take what you're doing seriously. Do your best, but don't take yourself too seriously. So yeah, so in our business we do lots of fun stuff, and we've even codified and ritualized having fun. So I'll give you a couple of silly examples, but
Please,
we
I
are
would love it because people say that, but the fun sometimes happen within the companies where it's rolled into a work-life balance, but you
yeah,
actually immerse it into your company culture.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so our corporate color is bright pink, which is fun. We are a remote company. So after COVID, we used to have fancy offices and Cape Town, Johannesburg, and it worked so well during COVID that we thought we are gonna be unconventional and stay remote forever. But we're gonna do it properly and we're gonna invest a lot in our culture. You can't just, you've got to work hard at it all the time. Like you work hard at having a culture in a physical space. So for example, we have a morning meeting every single morning. Everyone has to attend. And by the way, before COVID, I mean we've got about 65 staff. Before COVID, we never had a meeting, not once, where every single member of staff attended. Now we have it every single morning. So we have the meeting, and it's always got to start with a song, and it's
Oh
always
my
got to
God.
end with a joke. And every day, somebody different gets to run the meeting, and they can put in that meeting whatever they want, as long as you start with a song, you end with a joke, and then the other thing, I really believe in the importance of showing gratitude. And another little ritual that we have is you have to call for shout outs. Is there a shout out for someone? So maybe Alison, I'd give you a shout out for helping me with something, or going the extra mile, or just because I love your glasses, or whatever. I can give a shout out for anything. Nothing's too small or too big to give a shout out for. Sometimes shout outs go on for like several minutes. Sometimes people are a bit stingy and they're, only one or two. But I think that it's important that you catch people in the act of doing good in front of their peers. There is a recognition, and that is very important, and you do it in a fun way. So yeah, so we do that. I mean, we do have other things that aren't always fun. Of course, we're in business, so lots of stuff isn't fun. I remember during COVID, it was such a hard year and very hard time, and we actually got, for our end of year function, we got this amazing magician who played in Vegas to come and do our end of year function online. And I forget his name now, but he was brilliant. And he sent us all a pack of cards before the function, and we had to dress up. You had to dress up. We love dress up. We always do dress up. Halloween, or wear pink, or wear like fancy suit day, or spring day, or bring your pet to work day. We love that kind of stuff. But anyway, we had this magician, and he sent everyone a pack of cards that you got beforehand, looked like an ordinary pack of cards, and then he did a whole lot of magic tricks with us. But everyone was online, and he made you shuffle your cards, pick a card without showing it to anyone, sit on the card, and then he got everyone to reveal their cards at the same moment. Everyone had the same card. He was totally amazing.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But I mean, that was like mind blowing. So that is like just some
That's mind
examples.
blowing.
He was
That is
brilliant. He was
really,
brilliant.
yeah, that is really
So
brilliant.
hard. Yeah. But people are still talking about that like 4 years later. But I think, yeah. So my first word is fun. You should have fun yourself. You should enjoy what you do. It should have meaning to you, because then you will have more fun. And um and it's important that you make where you work a fun place for others. Also, a place where few people feel included and um at home and comfortable, and are able to laugh. I think I think people don't take having fun nearly seriously enough in general. So my
Well,
first word is fun.
I think it's so amazing because I think having that be part of your company culture, I think says probably a lot about you and your sister because you probably have a lot of fun and you probably laugh a lot, and that's probably very contagious that
Yeah,
your employees see that, and when they see you and your sister
yeah,
happy and laughing, and they know it's a safe environment for them to do the same, And then,
Yeah.
hey, you're right. When you need to buckle down and business is business, I think
Yeah.
you can have both in a culture. So I
I'll
think
tell,
that's beautiful.
tell you another last little story about having fun. So
Please.
we've got a guy, we've got a colleague. His name's Richard Frank, and worked with him for nearly 20 years. And Richard is a computer programmer, and every day he's a little bit of a stereotypical. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying this, but he's a little bit of a stereotypical computer programmer. He's
If
got
he
a beard.
does, I can edit it out.
Yeah, no, he won't mind. He won't mind. He's got a beard, and every day he used to wear black pants and a blue shirt, like a collared shirt, right? And so we started to notice it in this office, like it was every day. He always looked quite, we would say smart. I don't think you use that word, but quite. He looked good, he looked quite
Like
professional.
spiffy and sharp.
Yeah, quite spiffy, yeah, in his blue shirt, his black pants, every day, and his beard. And then his birthday was coming up, so we everybody in the company, and this was years ago, it was a much smaller company. Everyone, we sent around a note, like everybody, to honor Richard's birthday. Everyone needed to wear a blue shirt, a black pants, and a beard, just to honor his birthday. So everyone arrives in their blue shirt and their black pants, and you know what? He didn't notice. He didn't notice that we were all wearing black pants and a blue shirt. But
Oh
then we
my
all
gosh.
put on our beards and we said, "Happy birthday, Richard!" And we brought out a cake, and everyone was wearing their beard in solidarity with his beard. And since then, we just declared it International Beard Day. I don't know if there is such a thing, but we declared it on his birthday in June. And every year since then, every year everybody wears it just to like everyone will wear a beard, and I think the blue shirt and the black pants got forgotten along the way, but every year there is a beard day, and everyone gets has to make a beard if they don't have one, and just honor Richard's birthday. So yeah, that kind of stuff like that, we all laugh.
I think that's so great. But you're having fun. You're focused on business. You're making people feel welcome and part of the team. I think that's such a beautiful thing, and I don't think we see enough of that.
I don't think so.
Especially, I don't know in regards in South Africa, but I can certainly say that you don't see enough of that in a lot of American businesses. So I think that was a beautiful story to share, because I think other CEOs and leaders I think can take a bit from your playbook. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. It's something you need to plan carefully, and you need to be very cognizant of, and no, it's not to be taken lightly. Having fun is something to be taken very seriously, because it's
Yes.
not going to happen. It's not going to happen on its own
No,
often.
I would absolutely agree with that. Now I'm deciding now between your two, because you had two other impactful words. Next.
Well, why did you choose? Why did you choose?
Well,
We'll go with that.
well, I think I would like to go with, if you don't mind, because only because I've gotten to know you and this word hasn't been used yet. So I want to give you the floor to use it. It's unquiet.
Yeah. So unquiet doesn't necessarily mean loud, right? Well, I am quite loud, but that's another story. Unquiet, in my mind, is somebody who's restless and not prepared to just accept the status quo. In our company values, we wrote, we are a restless organization. We're always trying to look for better ways, to do things, for better solutions for our clients. Um, and and so I love that word. I do have a little story about that to go with the word, which is
Please.
which is which is which is very early on. So we've been going for about 20 years, just short of 20 years. Very early on, we when we founded the business, we didn't have the only reason we founded the business was we needed a job. And you don't have like that trouble so much in the US and the Northern Hemisphere, but in Africa, in South Africa, unemployment can go. Depending on what stats you read, it's like 40%, 50%. It's very, very high unemployment. It's actually the biggest challenge facing our continent. It's the biggest social challenge. It's terrible. So anyway, I didn't have a job, which is another whole story. But anyway, I didn't have a job, and so it was just like we just started doing something to make some money, because otherwise I was going to have to sell my house. We didn't have any money. We didn't have any clue. We didn't have a business plan. We didn't have a track record. We actually had like nothing. But actually, even having nothing is something, because you don't have very far to fall when you have nothing, right? So, so we anyway, it was very very early on. We had a couple of employees, and we had some debt that was owed to us, and we couldn't pay the salaries.
Now, was this how you were starting?
Yeah,
So you started
this is maybe like a
Flow
year. Yeah,
a year or two into
maybe
starting
a
Flow
year in.
Communications.
Maybe a year in. My
Okay.
sister had just joined, and we had the money on paper, but we didn't have it in the bank, and so we had to borrow
Yeah,
the money. We needed to borrow the money, and it wasn't even a lot of money. It was like $5,000. That's that's all we needed. But it was, when you don't have $5,000, that's a lot of money.
of course.
So we had to go to the bank, and it's really hard to. I mean, you've read, I'm sure, there's so many scary stats about how hard it is for women to raise capital. I'm telling you, it's even harder for clueless women to raise capital in Africa. Anyway, we went to the bank, and it was quite scary, because we had to pay our employees their salaries, and they were depending on us. And
Mhm.
so we really had to get this loan. So it was lunchtime, and it was very busy. There were a lot of people in the lobby of the bank. And we sat down, and it was a man looked at us, and he said, "Okay, what do you want?" And we told him, and he said, "Okay, well, do you have any collateral?" We said, "No." He said, "Okay, do you have a business plan?" We said, "No." Um, he said, but I said, "But we've been banking with you since we were 18. Like, you gave us your student loans. We paid those off. We never defaulted."
Mhm.
Anyway, we didn't look very
You said,
impressed
at
at
least
all.
I have a track record.
I mean, it wasn't. Anyway, he said, "I'll be right back." But he was kind of rolling his eyes as he said
Yes.
it. So I could see there's no chance that we're going to get this money, and we really needed it. And so I said to my sister Tiffany, "Listen, I'm gonna throw a tantrum, because because I had a friend who was a hotel manager, and he told me once that the worst thing that can happen in a hotel is if someone has a fit in the lobby, is like really, really cross and irate in the lobby, and starts to raise a lot of noise, and then they'll do just about anything. Or he said they'll do just about anything. They'll give you an upgrade, whatever, just to keep you quiet. So I saw all these people in the bank. I thought, I'm gonna throw a tantrum, because our options here are dwindling fast. So the guy came back, he sat down, and he shook his head, and he said, "No, no, sorry, we can't help you." So I threw a tantrum. I mean, it was a very calculated tantrum. I threw a very unquiet tantrum. And I said, "Why would you do this? Why?" And it was partly true. Like, we were, just because we're women, you denying us any funding. And so I really shouted. I got up, I stood up, I waved my hands, accused him of sexism and discrimination, which, I mean, which it kind of was a little
Of
bit.
course. Yes, I would say
Anyway,
so.
yeah, and he was okay, 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 okay. It worked like a charm, because he said, "Okay, okay, let me see what I can do. Let me go and ask my manager again." And he came back, and he sat down, and he said, "We can help you." Um, but the last laugh was on him, because he gave us the $5,000, and it was at I don't know if you have a thing called Prime in the US, but they give you the lending rate, the usual lending rate, the standard lending rate, plus 5%. So
Oh
we
gosh.
paid. I mean, that's like
Very
for
similar. Yeah, very similar.
I mean, that's like if you're in jail and you want a loan, it's like a very ridiculous amount.
So you have the 5,000 plus the interest,
Yeah, like crazy
the
scary
credit,
interest.
understood,
Yeah,
and then you have the amount of time that you would have to repay the loan.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, we were desperate, so we had to take it. So we took it. We walked out of there with our loan, and we paid our staff. And my sister, who's much more fiscally responsible than I am, she shook her head. She had just joined the business it was probably a few weeks before. I don't know. She was like, I'm from now on, I'm managing the finances. And anyway, we paid back the loan. We paid it back in a few months, and we never took another loan again. We've bootstrapped ourselves all the way. We've never owed anyone money since then. So that was
Well,
nearly 20
first of
years
all,
ago.
congratulations on that. And second of all, that in using a very unconventional strategic plan. And how was your sister's response when you said that you were just about to throw a tantrum as part of your business plan to try
She
to?
thought it was a good idea. Yeah, she said, she nodded. She was like, "Okay, cool. We got
Okay.
this." Yeah, yeah. She was all in. We were very, very short on options by this
Sure.
stage.
And now, was there
So
any risk that I don't know if the South African police are called South African police, but were you concerned that they may have been called before you were able to exit the bank?
I did no, but thinking about it, they do have security. I mean, thinking about it, it's probably more dangerous than I realized. But anyway, I did work like a charm. And the bank is still our bank, and still not too fond of them. But anyway, that was my example for unquiet. What we've applied in our business is you shouldn't ever rest on your laurels. You shouldn't ever think, "Oh, we got this," because then you're gonna go backwards.
I totally.
You've got to always be restless, always innovating, always thinking of like what can we do next? How can we be better? Be hungry for the future.
Yeah, I think that's. I'm happy you shared the bank story. I was hoping you would. And your last unword, which I love. I want you to share the unwavering. You shared so many other really amazing stories that I think our listeners can really relate to, because not only did you borrow that money and paid it back, but how you were able to sustain that. And you not only do business in South Africa, you do business all over the world and including the States. So let's not minimize your accomplishments as we move forward, please. But I would love to hear the unwavering.
Yeah. So unwavering was actually probably my first choice of word. I think both my sister Tiffany and I are very stubborn, and we are very competitive. And yeah, family. I mean, every family get together is a competition. I mean, even my mum had her 90th birthday recently, and even that was a competition. It was a dress up, and she had a trophy for the best dressed. I mean, that's like our family is competitive. But we started this business. We developed our values very early on. We agreed what the values would be that we could commit to. One of the very important ones is our people. Our people are our most important asset, and a lot of organizations say that. But I think we've really tried to live that over the years, especially in the hard times. Something COVID happens, and how you treat people, because it's so much part of our value set. That starts to define. It starts to answer a lot of difficult questions or to help guide you. So yeah, we've been unwavering. I mean, who would have thought? Like we were just two young women who had never even, I mean, I had never even worked in the industry of marketing and communications before. I mean, talk about unquiet, I don't know, or unorthodox.
I've never
Um,
done this, but you're like, I'm sure I can
yeah,
figure out how to do
yeah,
it
I'm
and do it
I have
well.
to do it. I have to do it. So, there's a lot, and there's a hell of a lot we still don't know. We're still learning all the time. She at least had worked in the industry. She had run a small company. But we were unwavering in our commitment to growing a place of work that is fun to work in, but maybe even more important, that does meaningful work. So we strive to do work that makes a difference in the world. If it's about fighting gender-based violence, or it's about fighting poverty or discrimination, or during COVID, we ran a massive campaign to educate people about remaining on their HIV drugs. HIV is a very big problem in South Africa. I mean, one in 5 or 6 people has it, and if you don't take your drugs, it's a death. It's a death wish. So,
It is.
but because clinics were closing, because people weren't going out, a lot of people stop taking their ARVs. So we did a whole campaign around the importance of adhering to them, for instance. So, yeah, whether it's helping women business owners in startups. We've one of our clients is the Cherie Blair Foundation in the UK, and that's their whole focus. Or so yeah. So what the story that I shared with you, I'll share it again. Was it was also very early on in our history, and we didn't have enough work, and we all sat around the boardroom table, aka my dining room table, and we
The
were
boardroom.
the boardroom was actually also my dining room, but anyway. And and we were okay. Well, let's just decide who we want to work with. I mean, didn't have any work, so that was quite easy. Everyone could agree that the best client in the world would be Nelson Mandela.
So
So
you
this is
started the bar small with your
we
first
started.
potential.
We thought. I mean, at least we could agree on that. It was easy to agree. So then we were like, okay, well, how are we going to get Nelson Mandela as a client? And I think this was in about 2006.
And you wanted someone that wasn't really well known, people didn't know much about him.
He was probably he's definitely the most famous person in South Africa, maybe one of the most famous in the world.
That's my point.
And yeah,
So
we did not know him.
that is my point.
We did not know him. Yeah. So
Oh my gosh, that is
we were
amazing.
unquiet and unwavering,
Yeah.
and we went. So his foundation was. So when he retired as president, he started. He set up the Nelson Mandela Foundation, which was his post-presidential office, and
Yep.
he would go. He still carried on working. I mean, he actually joked many times about needing to retire from retirement, but anyway, he carried on working, and we knew where his office was. I mean, it was we knew that, and we were like, okay, how are we gonna get Nelson Mandela as a client? So we brainstormed, and we looked at his website. And in those days, I mean, his website, it was really ropey. It was terrible. It was so amateurish. And so we somehow, I can't remember the exact details, but somehow we inveigled our way. We set up a meeting with his staff. We said we wanted to do a website analysis and show them what was wrong with their website. And somehow they let us in the building, and we took it really seriously. I mean, we did all this research, and we got into the office. It was in a big room. They were all on the other side of a large round table, and we started our presentation. It was very detailed, all the things that are wrong with their website. And the guy, the head of it, said to us, well, we don't have any money. So I said, well, don't worry, we don't need any money. Because I was thinking, well, if we get Nelson Mandela as a client, like all the other clients will follow, you know? I mean,
you couldn't ask for better marketing. Here was my first client.
Exactly. And anyway, we weren't, and as I said, I wasn't too good at money anyway. So I said, no, we don't need any money. And then he said, and then they looked a bit more, and they said, well, listen, Nelson Mandela's birthday is in 5 weeks' time. And if we were going to get a new website, we would want it in 5 weeks. And Richard Branson is coming out to celebrate it with, and Bill Clinton are coming out to celebrate it with Nelson Mandela.
Wow.
And we would want to launch it on that day. And it would have to be a very good website. We said, no problem. And then they said, and how many websites have you developed? He said, a few. You know, we had done our own, plus like my friend who ran a very small guest house, we'd done like a 5-page website for. We're now taking on a 20,000-page website that was one of the most prestigious, biggest websites in South Africa.
Oh my!
And we said a few, and they said, okay, well, don't call us, we'll call you. So we left, and but it was such an exhilarating just to have been, and we knew that Nelson Mandela was in the office because when he was, the South African flag would fly. So we knew he was in his office when we were doing that presentation, and we were on such a high. We went and splurged out. We went to like get some coffee at the takeaway coffee place around the corner, and we were congratulating ourselves on how well this presentation had gone.
Well, you should congratulate yourself just getting in the door to be able to do a presentation. So everything else was like probably like gravy from that point.
Yeah. Total bamboozlement. Anyway, the phone rings, and it's this guy, Vern Harris, on the phone, and he says to me, "We've only got 50,000 Rand." Now, 50,000 Rand is like $3,000. It's more. Remember the story I told you where we had to beg for the $5,000. So $3,000 was more than we would ever have dreamed of asking. We would never. We would have done it for nothing. We really would have done it for nothing.
I mean, that would have been the marketing alone for you, and the referral
Exactly.
alone
I mean,
would have been priceless.
so I said in a very calm way, I hope, like to think, I said, I think we can work with that. Anyway, they are still our client. Nearly 20 years on, we're their digital agency. We still, nelsonmandela.org is still a website. We've worked with Google. We've worked with really fantastic people over the years. We've digitized all his archives. It became a very, very large website, and and we worked our guts out for 5 weeks. And I'm not going to tell you all our stories, but we had to import Richard's younger brother Stephen, who's a genius, a computer genius. We had to import him. I think he was about 16 at the time at school. We had to import him from another city to come and stay with us and produce this website. Well, we wrote and we designed and we did it. And anyway, he's still working with us as well. And that's my story about unwavering, like, and a little bit unquiet, like just try, because what have you got to lose?
Well, I think that's already a really good nugget, even there, because there are people who are, as you talked about, starting their own company, and reading your impressive bio, and that was just a short bio, so I'm sure there's even more. But I think you leaving that with our listeners is so great, because if if you didn't have such a supportive team and plus a supportive sister, and
Yeah.
with all of you saying Nelson Mandela, I mean, most people would go, you probably should start smaller and maybe go for, and that, I believe, is what takes a really good unconventional leader. And I didn't even know this story about you when I first reached out to you. I just knew there was something unconventionally special about you and your leadership that I wanted to learn more about. And when I got to hear that story, I think it really shows, to your point, what do you have to lose? I mean, first of all, you got in. So
Yeah.
to know that you had the ability to just do that, and even if you didn't get the job, just knowing you had the ability to do that should be celebrated with coffee or whatever else. I think I love that you shared that story, because I think that means a lot, because taking risks, no matter what the cost could possibly do to your ego, but knowing that you believe that you could do it, even though you may not have had all the resources, you could figure that out later. But knowing that you had the ability and the confidence in yourself, and your sister and the team believe that, I think that is such a cool story. And I'm happy that you shared that. So as the company was getting, so after Nelson Mandela, where did you guys decide to take the company? Because you are probably now over 200 awards. So you're doing something right as a company. And what is so special about your company and your team that you bring this amazing unconventional leadership and services to them?
I think there are many different aspects to business and to being successful. There's a lot of luck. I think it's really important to be authentic, and I think long ago somebody gave me the great advice: just always hire people that are cleverer than you. That's how you can build a great company, and we always have done that, including my sister, who I tricked when she was heavily pregnant to come and work with me. But but I think you I really do. I think we work with wonderful people, and I mean, I don't say that, uh, and we're rigorous about that as well. When people aren't so wonderful, we get rid of them. People have to want to be great, and I think it's fine to make mistakes. I would really like to hope that everyone I work with knows that it's fine to make mistakes. Just don't make the same one twice. Also, having a great business partner or great business partners is really amazing. Having the courage of your convictions, not being humble enough to say, unassuming enough to say, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I think most people in business don't know what they're doing. They just don't admit it.
Oh, God,
So
I would agree. I would agree with you. Or they surround themselves, as you said, with people who are smarter,
yeah,
and it makes them look good.
yeah, of course. So I mean, I'm prepared to say it because I want people to know that anyone can do it. I started with no money. We started with no money. I told you, no clue, no track record, no business plan, no vision. We got those things as we went along. We've become more serious about. I mean, we have got a business plan now, thanks to Stanford Seed. We have got, we have got grown up over that time a lot. But um, I really, and that's part of. I love South Africa. I love Africa because I think it's a place where your hard work. There's a lot of opportunity, and maybe there's opportunity everywhere. If you work hard and you're passionate about what you do and you do your best, there's always going to be a market for quality. Doesn't matter what you do. So so yeah, and then stick to your values and be honest. If you make mistakes, often it's not the mistake that matters; is what you do afterwards that that matters more.
And your clients probably get a feel about, so they get to know you, they get to know your product, and there's nothing different than if they walked in your company doors versus what you give to them as a client. It's probably looking in the mirror.
I would hope so. I would hope so.
That's wonderful.
I'm not going to use my skills to support stuff that I don't believe in. I always used to joke that we would never like sell toilets. But then after I joked that, the next day a toilet company phoned us, and and they and
Was this a karma client?
and they were doing like low cost, low water toilets for people who didn't have toilets. And how could we
Oh
say
my
no to
God.
that? So I'm careful now. I don't say we don't too loudly too much, because you never know what's going to come along. I think being true to yourself, being true to your staff, your employees, um, being true to your clients, it's not rocket science.
I think too, you shared a story, and I do want to save time for this story because I was very, uh, I was taken back by the story because you don't hear the story that often. And you talked about a time in COVID. I think this speaks to you, and I think how you even approach your clients. And the story you shared with me, and I'm going to paraphrase it, and I'd like for you to tell it. But this was a story when you were put in a choice with COVID, you and your sister, where you had to you knew things were tough. You weren't sure how the company was going to not necessarily continue, but how people were going to get paid. And this wasn't just you and your sister putting this plan together. You brought this discussion to your team. You know the story I'm referring to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave that story out because I think it speaks such volumes to who you are, your sister, the people that you want to have as part of your team. And you and I spoke about family and using that term kind of carefully. But I think it really speaks well in who you are, your sister, and the rest of your team. Do you mind sharing that story? Because I think I don't think you not only look at that within your business, but I think you also take that, and certainly don't want to speak for you, but I think you also take that message in with the clients that you work with and choose to work with.
Yeah. So with COVID, as around the rest of the world, we went into a lockdown, and at that time, a lot of our clients were in the tourism industry. A third of our clients, we had clients like South African tourism, Cape Town tourism. I mean, any attraction you can imagine in South Africa: the Apartheid Museum, the Table Mountain Cableway, the Two Oceans Aquarium, all these quite famous attractions. They just stopped business. I mean, you weren't allowed. There was a very strict lockdown in South Africa.
Sure.
They weren't allowed to carry on operating at all. And at that time, we didn't know. I mean, no one knew what COVID really would become. Was it going to be the first thing? The first thing we did was we knew it was coming. Tiffany had done research, and she knew that we were going to go into lockdown. So we actually sent our staff into a lockdown about 2 weeks before the rest of the country,
Wow.
just because so we could get a jump on it,
Sure.
know what we're dealing with, Well, so we went into it, and we didn't want anyone to die. They didn't have to die.
Of
We didn't
course.
want anyone to be. This is not like this is something you can do remotely. What we do, communication. So we went remote, and but 2 or 3 weeks in, all those contracts were frozen, and we didn't know how long this was going to carry on. And we did have some reserves, but we had a meeting, an online meeting with all our employees, and we said to them, and we've always been very open, we're very transparent. So we show them every single month. Everyone knows what the targets are, financial and otherwise. And every single month we update people. There's no surprises. We don't keep stuff. It's very open. So we said to them, listen, we're either going to have to cut a third of the jobs, or we're gonna ask for people to take a third salary cut for the foreseeable future. I mean, neither, both terrible choices.
Sure.
And we asked people to vote. We had an online voting system, and we were going to take the majority vote. What do people want? And the votes, I remember, even before the end of the meeting, the votes were coming in, and every single vote was for the salary cut.
It's amazing.
Because nobody, not one person wanted somebody else to lose their job. In fact, I remember there was one guy who said, there's one guy that phoned me and said, if we were going to go with the job cuts, he had been with us for many years, and he would like his job to be cut because he thought he would have a better opportunity to find other things than some of the other people. And
what a
so,
selfless act. That
I
is,
mean,
that's that you do not hear that. That is beautiful.
yeah,
Wow.
I
Wow.
still get goosebumps thinking about this. Anyway, we every single person voted for the salary cut. We implemented it immediately. I mean, it was hard. It was a hard time. People were losing their jobs. People were dying and sick. But then, and we started to innovate. We started to be unquiet. Like, okay, what can we do that and we started doing online eventing. I mean, that's another whole story. We had a huge event. Antonio Guterres, who's the Secretary General of the United Nations, was meant to give a speech in South Africa, and he couldn't travel, and he was in New York. So we invented an online streaming platform for him to do the talk in New York. This is before, like, in fact, we've since used it for many different things. But we were just it became a time of great innovation. Like, what can we do? Like, okay, what business? Who can we get as a client? We needed work, so we were innovating like crazy. And after about 6 months, we had steadied the ship, and we went back to, first we went back to 80% salaries, then we went to 100% salaries, and then by the end of the year, actually we'd done quite well. Because I think we'd been really innovative, and we were actually able to pay everyone a bonus back for every cent that we hadn't been able to pay them. We paid them everything back.
That is an absolute incredible story. And I'm sad to say that that's an incredible story because I think it's so wonderful. And I hope that my listeners from all over the world take again a strategy from your playbook. Just because when companies are put under, and we didn't know, you and I talked about it, we had no idea what COVID was going to do, but you and your sister could have said, well, I mean, we put in the most time, or we've done this, so we should get more. And you could have done so many other different and made any other decisions because you're in charge. But to have a collective decision and then on top of that continue to do the right thing for your employees when they said, I'll take a pay cut. And I don't know at the time if they knew that from that pay cut if they were going to be retro back from that time. But even if they didn't know, to know that you and your sister felt that that was important, and unfortunately that's a very unconventional way of thinking, and it needs to be a more conventional way of thinking in taking care. It's
looking
wonderful.
Looking after people is good business.
I agree.
Because those people stay with you. I mean, we don't sell a product. We sell our services, our attitude, our skills. We only have the people that work for us are our assets. So you've got to have the best people. And then if you want the best people, you've got to look after those people. So it wasn't that hard of a decision. It wasn't like an agonizing decision. It was like a very easy set of decisions to make.
You see, and I agree with you. You see a lot of businesses, and especially here in the States, where they are having to do layoffs again. And how some of those layoffs, and layoffs unfortunately have to happen. And sometimes those are driven within industries and the market, and there's a lot of factors that go into it. But at the end of the day, it really is how it is done. Because no matter if a difficult decision has to be made and you do have to lay off someone, they mainly think about how that process happened. And most of the time, where I've heard from employees, and especially here in the state, is yes, they were sad to be laid off. Yes, they were sad by all the time and commitment that they've dedicated to the company. But what has stung most to them, even when they've gained another job or employment somewhere else, is how they were treated during that process. And that is what stays with them and why they would never return. When a company could do the best they can to the best they can in trying to make that transition process, it's not easy for anybody. But there could be a time where things get better and you could go back to that person and they may remember, like, I know at that time you treated me with the utmost respect, and I know that was challenging for you to do, and yes, I would like to come back. But 9 times out of 10 that doesn't happen. They normally will say, I was treated horribly and I will never go work for that company again, or especially if that particular person is still within the company.
Well, we have a very proud record. Some people do leave Flow, but we call it the Boomerang Club. The Boomerang is people who leave. We call it going on a sabbatical. And then after a year or two, they want to come back, and we usually take them back. I mean, if they've been good and they've been part of our team, why wouldn't we? I mean, they've gone and got some experience and got better and more grateful for their job now. So they're the best employees ever, I think. So the Boomerang Club there's quite a few. I think there's 5 or 6 people who've left. They've gone somewhere else and then they've come back.
That is awesome. I love that. I think it's so great. I love the name too. That's beautiful. I wanted to set aside just a brief moment we're getting close to our wrap up time. And I wanted to see if you had any questions for me, if there's anything you felt you've left out, you wanted to dig a little deeper on, just anything I always like to give my guests an opportunity to kind of have the floor for a moment, just to see if there's anything additional that they would like to share or ask me, of course.
Um, I think, I hope what our story can show is that if you have guts and you work hard, you can achieve anything. And you don't, I mean, sitting in my little spare room, I had a baby, I had two smelly dogs. I never dreamed of running a large, successful agency. It wasn't even something I dared to dream. And yeah, I would really like, if any of your listeners are starting out or thinking, should I go and do this? There's no time like the present. Just believe in yourself, and you can do it. Get a great partner if you can. But yeah, just believe, because you're as clever as the next person. And maybe you're harder working. And don't be daunted. Be undaunted. Be, of course, and then have fun if you in. Be unwavering and be unquiet. Don't ask questions. Be restless. Don't settle for what is easy to settle for. The easy road is hardly ever the good road in business. So, but you can do it. Anyone can do it.
And if you're in a place and they're not listening to you, then you should make some noise. And as you said, don't be quiet.
Don't be quiet. Or go to a place that will listen, that will appreciate you.
Yes.
If
Yes.
you can.
Yes.
But you don't, just believe, because wonderful things can happen.
Well, I agree, because what I wanted to share with you is we did not know each other. And one of the first questions you asked me is, how did you find me? You know, I'm in South Africa. and we didn't know each other. And I reached out to you. We had no prior connection to each other. And I said to myself, well, what's going to be the worst thing? She goes, I have no idea who you are, and I don't want to be a guest on your podcast. So I took your advice and I reached out to you, and I'm thrilled that I did. And I really want to thank you so much for your time and your wisdom that you shared with my listeners and with me. I'm very, very grateful for that.
Well, I'm grateful to you. What a pleasure. What fun this has been. Thank you.
Thank you. That wraps up today's episode of Unconversations. A huge thank you to our guest, Tara Turkington, for sharing such valuable insights and engaging in an unscripted unconversation with me. Join us for our next episode as we showcase and draw motivation from other remarkable leaders worldwide who are shaping the definitions of success and leadership. I'm Dr. Allison Schmidt, and thank you for listening to Unconversations. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to my podcast. Until then, keep challenging the norm, just like Tara does, and striving for excellence in all you do. Tara, thank you so much. I am so grateful for your time.